Hi, I'm Cheryl Kagan. Welcome to this week's edition of Kibbitzing with Kagan, brief conversations with people I find fascinating. With me today as my very special guest is Adam Pagnucco, one of Montgomery County's smartest, most intuitive, thoughtful political analysts around. Adam, thank you so much for making time to chat today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm shocked that you said yes. So I have to say. First, I'm going to give you your background, then we'll dive in. So, you are a New York native and graduated from Cornell in 1994. Your background was largely at the national level with labor unions, the laborers, the AFL-CIO, the carpenters. You came to Montgomery County, worked for Hans Riemer, and then started your whole journalism thing, which is amazing. You started Maryland Politics Watch first, and then it was Seventh State. Montgomery Perspective is you've been doing since 2022. So I want people to have a sense of the breadth and depth of your background. But let's start with the fact that normally you are interviewing people. What's it like to be at the receiving end?
How about I let you know at the end of this interview?
That's totally fair. I promise you there are not going to be a ton of gotcha questions in this, but I'm so interested.
I,
So,
I am certainly deserving of such, given how I have treated interviewees in the past.
you've always been fair to me, abundantly fair and thoughtful. Um, what took you from New York to Maryland? Let's just start with that. How did you get here and dive in Montgomery County?
I wanted to work in the labor movement. And one of the reasons why I did so is because I was working at a Borscht Belt hotel in the Catskills when I was a kid.
Love.
And
Which one? Is it Kutcher's?
close. It was the Stevensville Country Club in Swan Lake.
Okay.
It was right down the road,
Yeah.
as was Concord. And I got fired when we had a walkout because our paychecks were bouncing.
Whoa.
And yeah, I was 18, 19 at the
Yeah.
time. I
Yeah.
was at the Industrial Labor Relations School at Cornell, and I decided I wanted to work in the labor movement. And of course, DC is where most labor unions are
Yeah.
headquartered.
Yeah.
I came down, I started at the bottom as an intern for LiUNA, and I spent the most time with the
The
carpenters
Labor's
union.
International Union of North America,
Yep,
Leona.
yep,
Look at
yep.
me. Okay. Uh-huh.
And I spent the most time with the Carpenters Union, and a lot
Yep.
of what I did was work on union organizing campaigns all around the country.
Nice. Amazing. 25 Louisiana Avenue on the hill. Am I close?
That is the Teamsters. So they
Teamster.
were a block away from
I
us.
was
Yeah.
going to say it's close. Okay. All right. So talk about labor unions then and now. Are they how effective, thoughtful? Um, they're certainly having tough times under a Trump administration. Why don't you talk about working people and labor unions politically?
Well, first of all, I would draw a distinction between the private sector labor movement and the public sector labor movement.
Okay.
In Maryland, and especially in Montgomery County, the public employee unions are very effective.
Okay.
Uh, they, they're great at collective bargaining. They're great at political representation. They have a lot of power. The Montgomery County Education Association and its Apple ballot is widely regarded as the number one endorsement in county politics.
And you
So
have analyzed that all
yeah,
the
I
time.
mean, they were actually the first organization I ever wrote about.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
at the county level and the state level, I think that at least in Maryland, unions are very effective, and make a great case for wanting to join a union and pay dues and get the benefits thereof. I think in the private sector, which is where I worked, it's much tougher
Mm.
because the federal laws that protect collective bargaining are quite weak. They are honored more in employer abuses of them than anything else. And it's really hard to get a great deal in collective bargaining when you have a minority of the workforce in your ranks. So
Yeah.
that remains uphill. But I got to tell you, working in the labor movement, that was a great job. I have a lot of stories of union organizing campaigns.
Love that.
I'm proud of the fact that I spent a large part of my life helping people get better lives for
Cool.
themselves.
So let's pivot to journalism and to Montgomery County. First off, what's your earliest political memory? What do you think helped launch you
Are we talking nationally or locally?
locally?
Not being able to cross the street safely.
Okay.
That's why I started right. Well, that's why I got into county and state politics
Uh-huh.
because at the time I lived near Holy Cross Hospital in Silver Spring.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the other side of Georgia Avenue from the Forest Glen Metro Station.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all had to, in my neighborhood back then, we all had to cross 13 lanes of traffic. Uh,
Wow.
One of the busiest intersections in the county and probably the state to
Sure.
get to the metro station. So a group of us in the neighborhood decided that we wanted another metro entrance built on our side, on the eastern side. And that was 2006, which was an election year.
Mm-hmm.
That brought me into contact with a lot of people running for office. And eventually I started writing because of that. So yeah, that's the grand story. I couldn't cross the street. So here I am.
I love that. Well, that's like our comptroller, Brooke Learman, was inspired because a bus didn't show up and she had other options, but a lot of people rely on a bus. So those stories are powerful.
Now
Um,
I'm going to throw this in.
yeah,
Part of it didn't last because in the 2010 cycle, there were all of these great races going on in the county, and I began to write about them. And
yeah.
there was one particular race where there was this former delegate who was a great candidate. Let me tell you, this former delegate did everything right as a candidate, and I learned a lot from writing about her. And she was taking on a sitting state senator who, had the power of incumbency. That was a great race.
It was a great race.
I loved writing about it, and that is why I have so much affection for Senator Kagan. You didn't
Yeah.
win that time, but you came back and you won big.
300 and something votes. The voters weren't ready in District 17 to make the change yet after 32 years, but after 36, it was time.
Yep.
Um, how do you choose? So let's pivot to the journalism. So you are your own boss. You have all this autonomy. How do you decide what's really in your craw? How do you decide what you want to write about?
I'm not sure I would call myself a journalist.
Okay.
That other people can label what I do.
Okay.
Um, First of all, I like to write about things that I know something about.
Hmm.
If I don't know the topic or I don't know the geography, I feel like I can't add value for my readers. So I
Hmm.
have to stick to those things that perhaps I've accumulated some expertise on.
Hmm.
There are some stories that are perpetual. Budget and tax is one of them. Anything related to MCPS is another one
The
because
Montgomery County public school systems.
yep, our people here care a lot about their public schools.
Yes.
There's a lot going on in public schools.
Hmm.
Um, I also like to write about things that I think are not going to be written about by the rest of the media.
Love
Uh,
that.
that if I'm writing the same thing that everybody else is, am I really adding value for the readers?
Hmm.
Probably not.
Hmm.
And then some of it starts with a question that I might have. Like a particular individual makes a particular claim, or the government says something, or my readers communicate with me every day. They'll have questions, and then I'll think to myself, that's an interesting question.
Yes.
I don't know the answer right now, but I think I know where to go to find the answers. So let's go out and find out what that's going to be, and maybe it turns into a column.
Love that. So when you're writing your column, you're really great about talking to a ton of people, being very clear what's off the record, what's on the record. How do you make those decisions?
The number one obligation that I have is to protect the people I'm talking to.
Hmm.
So for a real journalist, if you're talking to them, the assumption is that you're always on the record unless you
Yep.
mutually agree to go off. For me, it's the opposite. We're off the record unless we mutually agree to go on. I found that arrangement to be something that my sources want. I've
Hmm.
never burned a source. I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I've never
Yep.
burned a source and I never will.
Yep.
And if the source tells me something interesting, I'll have a conversation with them about, can this be on the record? Okay, if not, do you have documents? Is there
Yeah.
something that I can go to find the stuff?
Yep.
My readers are
Yes.
very smart, and rather demanding. And they're much more interested in facts that they can use than in pure opinions.
Mm.
And so that's all part of the mix too.
So you are really big on numbers and data and all that. How many how many readers on average do you have, and what causes the spikes?
Well, there's a lot of variability in readers, but let's say that it's tens of thousands most of the time per month. Tens of thousands of users and tens of thousands of page views.
Mm,
That's going to be going up come the election season.
absolutely.
The spikes go when a topic is of interest to people who are beyond like the people who pay close attention to state and county
Yeah.
politics. And a typical example of that is things that involve the public schools and like redistricting, for example. They're doing boundary studies right now. They might be
Yes.
shifting boundaries. They're moving around their academic programs. Those things reach parents and families that don't necessarily pay attention to the minutia
Mhm.
of state and county politics, but they care
Mhm.
about their schools. And particularly if I can offer them something that doesn't exist somewhere else, they will come in. And then what's what I like about that is that some of these people who may come in because of a particular post or two then become interested in the broader dynamic of county and state affairs. They
Sure.
sign up for the email list, they follow it, and what I really hope they do is okay, follow, read, and vote.
Yes, no question. Um, are there certain go-to experts, insiders, or sources that you go to regularly, or is each post totally different?
Yeah, there are a few regulars. I look, when I started out years ago, I benefited from a group of people who had been around a long time, and they contacted me and they said, "Okay, kid, you don't really know what you're talking about, but we do,
Yes,
and you're putting in the work, and you know how to write. So we're going to take you in here, and we're going to educate you about the way things really work." And I'm very fortunate that a lot of them are still around and filling that role. However, most sources have expertise that are specific to a particular subject.
sure.
They may know a lot about economics. They may know about real estate. They may know about the schools. They may be in the labor movement or in a particular elected office. So I feel like for most things that I write about, I may not necessarily know what's going on, but I know the people who do.
Yes,
And I'm very fortunate that they talk to me.
I love that. So you, as I said, you worked for Hans Riemer for 4 years, and we worked together for David Blair for county executive. How do you pick candidates? How do you decide this is someone I'm willing to put my time, my juice into?
Well, the decision from now on is a very easy one. The decision is none of them. I'm
Okay.
not working for candidates anymore. I'm not going to work for candidates again.
Hmm.
I worked for a few. I like David Blair very much, and
Hmm.
Hans Riemer was a good guy too. Um,
Hmm.
Back then, it was kind of akin to my decision who to vote for, right? I don't tell people who to vote for. That's
Hmm.
not why they come to my site. But what I would tell them is, look for people who you agree with most of the time, particularly in the big issues. Like you're never
Hmm.
going to agree with any candidate on everything. That's an unfair
Hmm.
marker to
Sure.
put.
Standard. Yeah.
Number two, look for somebody who you think is competent enough to get stuff done.
Hmm.
And number three, and this is the hardest one of all, look for someone who you think has good character.
Nice.
And for character, if they are an elected official, look at how they conduct themselves as an elected official.
Hmm.
Are they honest? Are they consistent? If they change their minds, did they say why?
Hmm.
They're not an elected official, then look at their background and what they were doing before they were running for office. Do they have a record of service? Do
Hmm.
they show that they were caring and volunteering in some way, that they
Hmm.
were doing something that was unaccompanied by glory, but really meant something to themselves and the people around them? So whether it was selecting people to work for or selecting people to vote for, that's what I look for.
Yes, I like that. We're getting a new county executive and bunch of new county council members. Obviously, we'll have a bunch of new and returning legislators, blah, blah, blah. If you could say something to voters, generically, how do you handicap any predictions, anything as you're looking at it now, as we basically are 6 months away?
It's too early to make any predictions. But what
Fair.
I would tell voters is pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like they always say every election is the most important election and so on and so forth. Well,
Mm-hmm.
at the county level, it actually is true this time.
Yeah.
We have a county executive who is leaving due to term limits. The next person who gets elected.
New term limits that were passed, enacted during his tenure, arguably because of him
You could make that case. We had term limits that were passed in 2016.
for
Those provided
council.
for council and exec. There were 3 terms that were allowed.
Mm-hmm.
During the tenure of our current county executive, the
Mm-hmm.
voters reduced the limit on the exec's terms from 3 to 2.
Yes.
That's why he's leaving now.
Mm-hmm.
He would have been eligible to run for another 4 years if the new limit had not passed.
Correct.
So he's departing. He intends to run for council at large. We'll see how that turns out. But now, there are some good candidates who are running now,
Mm-hmm.
who definitely have a shot for the office. We could see close to half of the county council being new.
Mm-hmm.
County government is the biggest county government in Maryland, measured by the number of people who work for it and measured by their budget. It has a substantial portfolio of powers granted to it by the state. We have economic issues that we're dealing with.
Yep.
Um, our government does a lot of things here, and it is in the voters' own self-interest to pay attention to this, because we're talking about their future here on the ground.
No question.
What I would tell them specifically about my site, I want them to do 3 things. Number one, I want them to read,
Mm-hmm.
of course. Number two, I don't want them to agree with me. That's not necessary. I
Mm-hmm.
want them to consider the facts that I put up, because I
Mm-hmm.
put a lot of effort into putting facts in front of the readers.
Yes.
And if those readers examine those facts and develop opinions that are different than mine, great.
Mm-hmm.
Critical thinking. We need more of that. And
Yeah.
then the third thing I would tell them is, after you've learned as much as you can from my site and from the rest of the media, go vote.
Yes. Amen. So you talked about how you want to be in your own lane and don't want to cover the stories that others are already doing. How would you know that? You don't know what Maryland Matters or the Baltimore Banner, Post, The Sun. You wouldn't necessarily know what they're working on generically. How does that go?
Sometimes the stories overlap. I mean, we all reported on former Congressman David Trone taking on
Yes. Oh my golly.
attention to me.
Yep.
And we'll all have more to say about that.
Yep.
But there are some things that I think, first of all, I'm not a reporter. I'm more of
Yes.
a columnist than anything else. But what
Yes.
I really am is a research analyst. I love going out and finding data and learning from it. I this is going to sound strange. I love taking a spreadsheet of several 100,000 rows, trying to crunch it, and then learning 3 things, 4 things,
Yeah.
5 things from all of that data, and then reporting it out to people, because
Yeah.
how else are they going to know? So
Yes.
for those kinds of long and technical analyses, I don't think the rest of the media is going to do that. Uh,
Yes.
that tends to be my bread and butter, along with all the other stuff.
Okay, so that inspires like 3 more questions. So first off, I just want to say publicly, have endorsed April McLean Delaney, the incumbent. I have a good relationship with David Trone. He is not delighted that I'm not supporting him as he seeks to kind of take his seat back, but it's the people's seat. We have a Democratic incumbent who's working hard, and so I am sticking with Congresswoman Delaney. So FYI, I want to put that on the record. You talked about bread and butter. I You're never supposed to ask questions you don't know the answer to, but I really don't know. Have you ever made money through any of your various blogs? Does it help pay the bills at all? Do you have donors?
At this point, I don't need it. I mean, I'm basically retired.
Nice.
And it's my site. Nobody tells me what to write.
Yes.
I don't have a boss. I may run ads someday. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
But I'm not that far away from, and I'm getting a pension now from the Carpenters Union.
Sweet.
I'm
Okay.
not that far away from tapping into my 401ks. So it's kind of a unique opportunity in
Totally.
a lifetime to not have to, because for a while I did have clients, and that made things complicated.
Yes.
I don't now. Um, it actually got so complicated that when David Blair wanted me to work for him, I said, you know what? I will, but I
Right.
got to start writing.
But
And I
you've
did.
got what? I'm sorry.
but I have to stop writing.
Yes. Okay.
And I did for a year and a half. I
Yep.
was So yeah, I don't want clients. I don't need them. And I'm happy what I'm doing on most days.
Okay. Must be nice. You talked about the hundreds of thousands of lines on a spreadsheet and distilling it to three or four. One of the things I always find interesting on your site, you have the number of minutes it will take to read the article. Do you feel like your readers won't persist, won't stay with it if it's too long a piece? Why do you do that?
Um, well, it's because of my attention span. It,
Okay.
it's hard for me to stick with something for too long because I'll start
Okay.
thinking about something else. And one of the things that you'll see a lot, I'm starting one today, is I like to chop things up into series.
Yes. You do that
I'll do
so compellingly. Yes.
So I like that because if I were to put it all into one post, then it would
Hmm.
start looking like an encyclopedia.
Yes.
I know something about my readers. They're very busy
Uh-huh.
people.
Uh-huh.
And if I ask them to sit down for 20 minutes
Right.
and read something, they're probably not going to do it. But if I
Hmm.
chop it up into little pieces that have like these bite-sized chunks that you digest, and then I can mix them up with other stuff that come along,
Yes.
my theory is it's easier to hold their attention on something like
Sure.
that.
Sure. Well, you do the late great Johnny Carson, the top 10 of this, and here's number 10 or 10, 9, and 8. And then you have to check who's going to be the next and who's going to be number one. And yeah, so that's always fun. Um, what do you like best about blogging, writing, researching?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Um, I like being in a position where I can explain things to people in simple terms that they may not otherwise get.
Okay.
And like one of my inspirations for this is Carl Sagan.
Carl
The
Sagan.
Carl Sagan, the
Wow.
astronomer.
Okay.
Here's why I like Sagan so much. Sagan wasn't necessarily the greatest scientist of his generation. There were others who did more science than him. But what he was great at was taking complicated things and explaining them in simpler terms that anybody can understand.
Love that.
A lot of the documents that I can consult, a lot of the data that I crunch is super complicated and
Hmm.
super hard to get through. And sometimes I'll even say this in some of my posts. You'll see translation by Pagnucco, right?
Nice.
And what I'm trying to do a lot of the time is just explain stuff because look, and I'm talking to the readers here. This is your government. You're paying for the county government and the state government. And
Right.
I don't write about the federal government very much. There are other people who know a lot more about it who do a better job than I could.
Hmm.
But you're paying for this. This is your government. You should
Right.
understand what's going on. And if I can do that for you, I love it. And then the other thing that I like is hearing from the readers. I
Yes.
hear from them every day. They can be unsparing.
Mm.
They often have tips that turn into columns.
Yep.
But it's not like it was in the beginning where it was like, you throw your message in the bottle out into sea, right? And you don't know
You
if
don't
anybody.
know. Sure.
Oh, now I know. They get it
No.
all. They're
Okay.
letting me know about that.
I love that. Um, how do you get more followers? How do you reach people? How do people find you?
It's an organic process. I watch my email list and I get more net signups per month every single month that the site has been in existence. I think it's a combination of things. First of all, social media plays
Yes.
a Um, at this point, a bigger driver of traffic to my site than social media is Google.
Interesting.
Because what happens is when I write columns, they get indexed by Google and then
Yeah.
they're available through the search engine and people come in.
Mm.
Sometimes specific posts get passed around. And what I'll notice is that if I'm writing a lot about a particular topic, I will get readers signing up who are interested in that topic. If
Interesting.
I'm writing about the real estate industry,
Hmm.
next thing you know, I'll get a bunch of real estate agents coming
Yeah.
in. I'm thinking that there's going to be more real estate content. If I'm writing about schools, I'll see people who are concerned about the schools coming in. Now, what will happen is once they start to figure out that I'm not just writing about real estate, I'm
Yes.
not just writing about schools, some of them will become more occasional readers than
Sure.
regular, but
Sure.
some of them always stick.
Cool. I have several more questions, so let's see if we can. It occurs to me, do you or would you ever use artificial intelligence, AI, to write any of your pieces? And what is your thought on someone who does or would?
I don't do it now. I've thought about it. I'm very
Hmm.
hesitant because of the mistakes that I see AI make.
Yep,
It's very important to me that I am accurate.
100%.
Accuracy is something that can be measured. Fairness is more subjective,
Hmm.
but it has to be accurate. Um, AI doesn't have the level of accuracy that I'm comfortable with yet. What will happen though is that I'm searching on a particular topic, AI will suggest some resources, which then I will go and investigate. So it's useful for that. As
Hmm.
far as anybody else, I do my thing. I don't tell anybody else how to do their thing. I do
Hmm.
make determinations of what things that I find to be credible,
Hmm.
some sites more than others.
Hmm.
But for me, it's usually going straight to the primary documents rather than taking shortcuts. And it might take longer to do it, but you better get it right the first time if you want to have readers like mine.
Yes, agreed. How often or are you aware of columns or issues that have inspired legislation?
Are you talking specifically about mine?
Yes.
Um, I mean, sure, it's happened, and I see comments made in public that reflect some of the things that I write. But
Hmm.
let's be honest about this here. The process of creating a program, a bill, an
Hmm.
initiative of some kind, voting of some kind is complicated. And
Hmm.
it's rare that any one thing will cause that.
Hmm.
And for me to say that a particular column that I wrote is directly responsible for an event strikes me as excessively arrogant, and I avoid
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I respect your processes, both in Annapolis and Rockville. And
Okay.
if my writing is part of the mix, so be it, for better or worse.
Right. So there's one thing that I have to talk about, which is you named it, and this is an oldie but a goodie. You named the bill that Mike Miller, late President, Senate President Mike Miller, the Linda Lamone for Life bill. And you beat that horse, and I was on that issue and all that. Talk briefly, tell that story of our former state administrator of our state board of elections and what that journey was.
Well, you knew the story better than me. I mean, that was a big part of your career, both in the House and the Senate.
But in
But
between that, when that bill passed, I was not in office. Yeah.
well, yeah, well, maybe that's why it passed because you weren't around to stop it.
Amen.
This was one of the most egregiously bad things that has ever happened in Annapolis. And my recollection, and of course you'll correct me if I'm wrong, my recollection is that it was rooted in a struggle between then Republican Governor Bob Ehrlich
Hmm.
um, and then Senate President Mike Miller. Ehrlich wanted to recast the State Board of Elections and have them appoint a new director.
Yep.
Linda Lamone was the director at the time, and she was close to Mike Miller.
Yep.
And Miller arranged to have legislation passed to protect her and basically make it. I think the details were that, yeah, right. Okay. So
Yeah. No, 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 no.
protected her
Finish.
and
So
made sure
basically,
that,
impossible to fire her.
yeah, right. I mean, she could have been convicted and in jail,
Yep.
and they wouldn't. That board wouldn't have had the power to fire her.
Right.
And that bill remained in effect for many, many, many years. Who else and at any level of government was to get that level of protection?
Right.
And then over the years, some of the things that went on under her
Ridiculous.
tenure with the
Ridiculous.
voting machines
Yep.
and some of the problems and the scandals and the repeated audits from
Yep.
your office in Annapolis, not your personal office, but
Yeah.
the Office of Legislative Audits.
Yep.
It was beyond the pale.
Yep.
And I know I'm talking to the person who brought that to an end.
Yes. Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you, Senator Kagan.
Holy crap. It literally took legislation to fire her. She kept not being willing to leave. And so I actually had to sponsor a bill that was signed into law by the governor. It was insane. Anyway,
One of your greatest accomplishments, and an accomplishment that should have never had to happen.
amen. Agreed. Agreed. Crazy. All right, Adam, before we go to Fast Five, I have, is there anything you want to say before we pivot? I've gone through most of my questions.
Nope, except to the readers and the viewers, vote, vote, vote.
Yes, true. All right, so it is time for your Fast Five. Adam Pagnucco, genius political commentator and blogger. Sorry, that's just the way I talk about you. Five quick questions, five quick answers. Question number one. Who is a blogger or journalist you most admire, living or dead?
Tim Russert.
Oh, good choice. Question number two. If you could live in any decade in American history, what would you choose? When would you want to be alive?
Right now,
Okay. All
right
right.
now,
Okay.
because
Um,
this country is undergoing tremendous changes, and I really want to see how they turn out.
I like that. Uh, Question number three. What is your favorite junk food?
I tried very hard not to eat junk food these days, but when I did, it was cheese puffs.
Cheese.
Don't tell anybody.
Question number four. Favorite movie of all time?
Star Wars.
Good choice.
I was 7 years old. I saw it in the theater at the time. I never
Yep.
forget.
How many times do you think you've seen it?
At least it doesn't.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many parts of that script that I can do by heart. Let's hope the old man got the tractor beam out of commission. This is going to be a really short trip. Okay, hit it. All right. Question number five. Adam Pagnucco, what is your hidden secret superpower? What is a skill or talent you have, something you're really good at that most folks can't do?
Making my kid laugh.
I love that. That's perfect. All
That's one
right.
of my favorite hobbies too. It's
That,
getting harder as he gets older, but I'll never stop trying.
that's perfect. Well, Adam, thank you for all you do. Thanks for all you've done to educate and inspire and inform us all for so long. And I hope you keep doing it for a very long time. The work you do is really important. So thank you. And thank you for taking time to kibitz. How hard was it?
Oh, not bad.
Not bad. Oh my God. All right. I look forward to seeing you before too long. Stay well.
Thank you, Senator.
Bye bye.